There are things in this world we cannot explain, something hidden just beyond our view. Journey with us as we attempt to pierce the veil between our world and theirs. Join us as we pass through the doorway to the dead.
Join us at WLFE-DB.com for upcoming shows and so much more.
Journey through the gate.
Welcome in, everyone. It is Sunday, October 3rd, 2021. I am Dave. That is Jim. We are one half of Keystone State Paranormal Society, and this is Doorway to the Dead, your 2-hour interactive live stream, thanks to the WLFE-DB network. We were scrambling for a guest for tonight. Everyone had something to do or was out of town, or
we had a
cancellation. And we wound up falling into luck. We got two guests tonight. First coming on is our dear friend from the, I guess, Columbus, Ohio / Texas / Indiana area, Lola Carter. And she's going to talk to us about the investigation they did last night at the Firehouse Museum, which we were invited to, but couldn't get to because, I got a mandatory Saturday work. So hopefully that'll end sooner rather than later, and we'll be able to get back out and do some things. But we're going to bring her in. And then for the second hour, we're going to have a dear friend, if you're all familiar with, Cisco Murdoch is coming in. And what's her subject tonight, Jim?
They've got a bunch of things we're going to touch base on. It's going to be sort of a potpourri.
Okay, fantastic. So without further ado, let us go ahead and bring in Lola Carter. Hey, Lola, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, we're hanging in there. A lot of work.
Good seeing you, Lola.
I know you too. How are you doing, Jim?
I'm doing better. I've been battling some issues. I'm not quite sure what it is. I think, to be honest, it might be related to the vaccine.
Really?
We got the Moderna vaccine. I got the second dose beginning of September, and I have thyroid issues. I've been on thyroid medication, and it's hard to keep it in check. And I understand from doing a lot of readings, and my daughter, is the nurse at our local hospital. It seems that the vaccines do a lot with people's thyroid. Some of them, it makes it go way up. Some it makes it go down. A lot of people who have some of the underlying issues along with thyroid, like Hashimoto syndrome or stuff like that, they're all out of whack. So I didn't know if it was my heart or the thyroid, but I mean, God, I was getting all these diaphoretic sweats. My pressure is either way up or way down. My energy level was crap. I mean, sometimes all I could do to get out of bed. And I didn't know what the hell's going on. And you can't get in to see a doctor nowadays. My practice, they've had several physicians leave. And they had to cancel my appointment. I couldn't get another one at the beginning of the year. So I'm having to be like your own physician and stuff. So anyhow, but something broke here the last. I mean, I was really having a bad week, and it was getting progressively worse. I even got one of those little cardio mobile where you can put your fingers on it and it runs the EKG. They're pretty neat, by the way, too. But yesterday, I don't know what I had increased my aspirin. They've always had me on 1 aspirin a day. I increased that to 2. So, and that, the vaccine interferes with coagulation in the blood. So I don't know if it was that or I scaled down. I was only taking like 1/5 of the dose of thyroid they had prescribed. So the diaphoretic, I had sort of figured out that the thyroid was bringing on those diaphoretic sweats and maybe popping, it can really pop your pressure. So I do have an appointment end of the month with the cardiologist. But I mean, you get where you don't know. Like I was asking my daughter, should I go to emergency care or what? I was not having any chest pains or jaw or none of that, none of the. And then a friend of mine, my business partner at the Hoover House, he has heart issues, and he kept pressing me to, go in there, tell him you're having pains in your chest. They'll run all these tests. But anyhow, yesterday at the Hoover House, it just seemed to break. I mean, for the first time in a week, I really felt normal, and I've had a real good day today. So I don't know. The Hoover House, the spirits there really take care of me. I mean, I swear they do. They're very therapeutic. And we had an amazing, powerful session last night. There was a gentleman and his wife who were down visiting the wineries in the Adams County and around Gettysburg, and they had just booked a room for the night. And we had friends in and guests, and we're having a special little dinner. So we just invited him to, for the two, him and his wife, have dinner with us there. And then my sister was telling him about the table tipping and the spirits. And they asked, do you mind if we sit in? Or, said, no, by all means. So we knew some spirits come through. It was old family friends and folks we knew and my parents were good friends with. And they had already told us the spirits they'd be there, and they were. And it was really endearing. But then he sat down and started a session. And oh my gosh, the table, Emma, our special table, she had said his name was Dave as well. We have all these Daves around,
Like him already.
So she said he's a big burly guy, got a tattoo. I mean, he's, like a real manly man. And oh my gosh, he's there. The table was asking for him. So he came to the table. And at first, it was a pet he used to have came through. And I said, how neat that this pet he loved and all came through first. So he's communicating with this dog he'd lost a number of years ago. And then after, maybe 10 minutes of that, all of a sudden, there was this little girl there. And she was 7 years old. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he knew right away. He had a daughter who, while his wife was carrying the child, the daughter had stroked in the womb and somehow was born alive. Severe cerebral palsy and all kind of other things. I mean, needed feeding tubes, all this constant daily care, special care. And this gentleman had totally invested himself in the care of that daughter. I mean, he'd learned all these advanced nursing techniques and stuff and was so tied into his daughter. I didn't even notice at the time. He had a big tattoo on his shoulder, and it was her. And it was his daughter again. And when she was 7 years old, they were having to do some form of surgery to reinsert a stomach tube or something. And they nicked the bowel, and it resulted in her death. And I think he had to make a decision to take her off life support. And he's the one who had made the decision to have this procedure. And I'm telling you, we didn't know any until afterwards. We're talking. Oh my God, the little girl clung to him. We have this thing we call hugging, and she's hugging him. And the table kept trying to climb up into his lap. I mean, seriously, it was just, and we're all we keep tissue in the room. Everybody's having these tears of joy. And we coaxed the little girl over to give her mom a hug, but you could tell the father was the prime.
That is little girl.
Yeah, I mean, he was so invested in that little girl. And he later revealed to us all the emotional trauma. I mean, he was so devastated by her death. Now, this is back. It was like 1993. So it's a lot of years ago. And it's still so fresh in him. Now, here's the really weird part. My wife and I lost a child to SIDS. Same year, 1993. So it was the same year we both lost our child. I mean, it's just sort of weird the way spirit works all this out. But and then my son's come through number of times there, and so he was telling me this was after the fact. I mean, he had got to drinking, contemplating suicide. I mean, the loss of this will devastate him. And last night was therapeutic beyond any imagination. We must have had. It was over an hour. We do want EM pumps to provide some energy and allow the communication to go on longer, and it also doesn't take as much out of us, so you don't have super paranormal hangover the next day. But we've had so many amazing sessions, and this really was like just off the charts though, and you could see it just was so therapeutic to this guy. So I don't know, it's magic, and that's why I said, when things work out in my life, we got to get you there. I know who's coming through for you, hon. It's just that's the way the place works. We had I don't know if you knew or not, my son living in LA was diagnosed about 6 weeks ago with lymphoma, and we didn't know the extent. And so we were waiting for a full body scan to determine, the extent. They had done a biopsy, and in his thyroid gland, they had removed half of it. And that's where they found the lymphoma, in the thyroid gland. And so almost after we got the news that it was lymphoma, my son that I referred to who had passed, he comes through at the house with us on the table and tells us that the results of the scan will be very encouraging. And then shortly after that, my mother comes through with the same message. And my son slides over and gives me a hug. Dad, it's going to be okay. And it was a couple weeks there. We were waiting for the results, and then they came out. Stage 1, they found the tumor is just within that thyroid gland. It hasn't spread anywhere. And so instead of having to do chemo, they're just having to do a week's radiation for my son. And a matter of fact, I think that starts this week. So, but here, both my son and my mother came through and basically told us that, that the results would be real encouraging. We didn't tell him until after we'd heard from the doctors, but we had asked my deceased son to be out there with my son in California, and we've had constant references where a lot of times he's not there at the Hoover House. He's out in California with them. So we got some magical going on, I swear to gosh. And it's an offshoot, I guess, of the paranormal that we never could have envisioned years ago. And that's where, it's not, we haven't removed ourselves from the traditional, matter of fact, we get a little itchy to get into the routine investigative cycles. But, it's sort of like our stewardship, I feel, to have this house available and just to help people. These are tough times for all of us. I know, you've had your fair share of events and everybody has. So hopefully I'm feeling a hell of a lot better this week than I was last Sunday. And I don't know. So it's crazy. You just roll with it. What else are you going to do? But the place is always open for you, hon. Like I said, when the planets align correctly, now we got to get you in. Maybe sometime you're up in the air, you can come on down with Mike for a weekend. We'll set aside a room and all that for you. And Mike's well aware of the house and the stuff going on. I mean, he's I think he's sort of sold on this whole table tipping now.
We were talking about you guys.
Yeah, trust me, we wanted to make it up there for that, but with me having to work on Saturdays and not getting off till 1 in the afternoon, and getting up at 3:30 in the morning all week,
I know.
It would have been hard pressed.
And like I said, until yesterday, I don't even know that I would have been physically up to that kind of a drive. I mean, some of it, I guess, in your mind, and I know your mind can get you nervous, but I mean, my blood pressure was all up and just all kind of crazy stuff. And you know yourself, when you're not regular, and I was not. I never get like that. So, I probably had myself worked up some. I'm just really thankful, been giving prayers of thanksgiving that I mean, it was about 3:00 yesterday afternoon when suddenly I'm like, damn, I actually feel normal. It's like, what a blessing. Whatever normal is.
Speaking of, how did it go last night? I know that you've investigated there several times.
Yes. I don't know how many times, I lost track. But we had an awesome time. We had let's see, we had Alyssa, Shannon.
Oh gosh, see, I would have loved to see Alyssa. She's great.
Mm-hmm. And let's see who else. Well, of course, Mike, me, Alan Jinkerson, Jason Meadows.
So you had a couple people. You had a couple people that were over at the Harrison house that time we were there, right?
Who? Alyssa and Shannon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they were both. Yeah.
Okay. Memory.
But how was the activity?
Okay, so it was a little weird because it almost wanted us to like chase it. All right. And so Alan Jinkerson was getting some activity and we went to check it out. We saw it ourselves. However, like when me and Jason tried to like recreate it or whatever, we couldn't. It was just, I don't know. That was weird. We had some issues with like cameras at first, and then they came back on. It was just like things were off. But I love the Firehouse. I'll go back there probably like a million times.
Well, hopefully we'll catch you with you one of these times. And for the audience sake, I just want to let everyone know, Lola's amazing at getting these places that are not, let's just say mainstream. There's always names of haunted places that everybody sort of knows, and everybody has this. Lola is a master at getting these little places
that are
highly active, and just very interesting,
right?
And yet,
less well known,
and that's really neat
because they haven't been investigated as much.
Yeah,
and so therefore, you're kind of running into almost virgin territory.
Yeah. I know you, before a lot of stuff started occurring, and I won't get into any of those. I know, like I said, you've been through a lot yourself, the ringer, but I know you would, at one point were looking at trying to set up an investigation at the Monroe Mystery House. And that sort of fell through with everything going on.
Well, I know they don't have any weekends.
It's just they're tied up on weekends right now. Because if you ever get something going on that, please let us know. Because I've actually spoke to about a half a dozen people who've had that adventure, and it just sounds like an amazing place.
It is, and I would go back there 1,000 times. I mean, as long as they would let me in, come knock in. That's one of my faves.
Well, and we've still got a free weekend at the Bel Air House on the books.
Yeah. Kristen still owes us a weekend. So it's been a while since we've been up to Moundsville, and now we've seen Kristen. She was down here for the bash, and she actually she came in pretty unexpected with a couple friends and spent a night at the Hoover House, and she's been involved with the table tipping, and just like, wow, just really just loved it. She was recording a bunch of stuff and put it on. Matter of fact, the one night she was there, we were doing a session. When it finished, we got a bat in the house. I guess it, from one of the top areas, and it had got down to, so we wound up having to chase a bat out the back door.
Yep.
That put her in a little bit of worked her up a little bit. She doesn't like bats.
Yeah, I don't blame
And
her.
I believe we're going to be scheduling Old South Pittsburgh like ASAP.
Yeah, we're actually going to try to get a couple, places. We have a number of people who want to work. I know we're going to probably try to get Mike with us on that, because he'd been there a while ago and he's really anxious to get back. Hopefully, I think I have to talk to him further, but I think we might even have Mike in the end of this month, because I think our second guest tonight, Cisco, I think her and her group are planning on coming in around the 22nd, whatever that weekend is.
Okay.
And Mike, he was going to check and try to make sure he was open. So hopefully we'll get some of the old gang together. And of course, we had gotten together over the bash and had some really interesting sessions.
Yeah, he was talking about that last night.
Yeah, we care so much about all you guys, and I know, it's just been rough on everybody. This has been a rough year.
We have been petitioning Mike constantly now to move down this way. Move down this way.
Yeah, we're trying to steal him from Ohio.
We'll get a little permanent, like paranormal compound.
Yeah. And then we actually, I don't know, Cisco, she's currently living in New Jersey. She lives on the shore, but they're not really enamored with that area, and it's pretty expensive, New Jersey. So her husband really enjoyed the area. They came down for the bash, and they really had a neat session. He had a bunch of his relatives come through and talk with him and their son, and so they're actually contemplating moving down in the area. So I don't know if it was on our wish list, we may be able to expand KSPS next year to have Mike and Cisco on. That would be amazing. It would be a real powerhouse.
So can you give us some of the history of the Firehouse and what brought on the activity and just the history of the location itself?
So the Central Ohio Fire Museum, of course, downtown Columbus. I first discovered it because I was looking on the internet for places that are rarely or if ever investigated, and I was just looking these places up. And I think the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty sure it was 2012 was my first time there. And ever since, we just have struck up a friendship. And Sue is incredible and fun, hilarious, and very giving. Of course, it always helps to support them. And it's just a neat building. It's, they do a lot. So it's just a privilege of, them letting us investigate, because they don't have to. So, but, I don't really know the exact details of all of the history for the Firehouse. Some people want to know a lot, some people don't. So mostly I'll just let you research it on your own, but they have a lot of activity there, even in that area when, the Ohio Penitentiary burnt down.
Right.
There was, all the insane asylum that had exploded. There's all these things going on. And basically, it just is such a huge part of history. And I don't know. There's a lot to be learned, and the experiences are different every time I've been there. It's never been the exact same. So, it's just every time it's different. So it's always going to offer me, like something. I never walk away empty-handed.
So it's not that far from the Thurber house that we did with you.
No, because we actually drove around town. Jason and I were taking Johnny, the skeleton, on some adventures throughout Columbus. And
Okay.
so I wanted to show him the Thurber house. And so we took Johnny over to the Thurber house and took a couple pictures. And then we took him to the park and different things like that. But we decided to stop in at the fire museum and kind of see if we can get some measurements or take some pictures with Johnny. And we ended up spending a enormous amount of time there taking pictures with Johnny and the fire trucks and everything like that. So it's
Nice.
just fun. They are fun. They're so open, and they I don't know, can't say enough good stuff about them.
I mean, that's the thing is when you find these little known places that have so much to offer, it really adds to the experience when the people that are hosting it, or the owners in this case, or the people who allowed you in, are so nice and gracious as well, because you don't have to go in with a lot of apprehension. Are there rules I have to follow? Or am I going to offend someone if I use this tool or that tool? You don't go with any of that apprehension. So you can just go in and focus on the investigation and what we do. And I think that goes a long way into adding to the chemistry that as we agree is so vital for a successful investigation.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of like when, you, me, Mike, Jim all together. I mean, it always worked. And we've always had such awesome experiences. And when people connect like that, it's really cool because, it ends up
Always.
being a really active place. And so,
Yes.
yeah, and it was so good to see Mike last night. It was, or like Saturday night, last night.
Right.
This morning, I'm still tired. What day is it?
An hour
No, but
ago.
it was an honest, great time. And everybody kind of helped out. We had another guest. His name was Lou, and he asked if he could hang out and just kind of watch from afar or whatever. And he had a really, really good time and got to witness a few things. But we haven't even begun to review evidence yet.
Right.
So,
Now,
but there will be some.
What do you find the most there? I mean, is it more personal feelings or things that you see or hear, or is it EVPs or photographs or video, or is it, I mean, every place has evidence for you that that you've taken us to, but sometimes this place is just better at EVP, while this place you get better pictures and not so much EVP. So what do you think that offers the most of at the Firehouse Museum?
Well, first of all, I would think it's the EVPs because I've gotten some really good ones. Pictures, probably not, but I would say EVP's number one.
Okay.
And we've gotten hits on like millimeters, K2, things like that, but I mean, it's consistently full of EVPs. So, yeah.
What about, like I said, what about personal experiences? You get a lot of those, or have you had any there?
At the firehouse? Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you remember when we were at Harrison House Bed and Breakfast and I was in that closet
Yes.
and something rolled off of there and I tried to beat hell getting out of that closet? It was
do.
like that. Yeah, it was like
Okay.
that.
Okay. I remember that very well. speaking of the Harrison house, Jim, you're still in touch with Lynn Varney, aren't you?
Yeah. We still message back and forth.
Okay, so she's enjoying her, I guess, retirement down in Florida, but Jim still keeps in touch with her. So
Yeah,
that's always
me too.
nice.
We talk occasionally on Messenger and things like that. But yeah, she's awesome. And
What
so
about the new owners,
of
the Harrison house?
I don't know anything about them.
I didn't know if maybe you would try to contact them, see if they were interested in still allowing people to do that, or
No. No, I mean, if I was asked, well, yeah, but no.
we need to tell Lynn to give us the inside info on those people. Maybe
Right.
maybe they'd be amenable to it.
She
Because
might.
it was so weird. I remember getting there and starting to set up for that place, and my back just did not want to work, and I was walking all hunched over and could barely had enough strength to lift my damn feet. And by the time I got everything set up, I thought I was going to die. And we started investigating, and next thing I know, I felt fine. Now I think you gave me some prednisone, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I took some steroids, so I was juicing. So I noticed that you take. I mean, obviously life gets in the way, but you seem to take breaks in between investigations. Obviously, like I said, life gets in the way, and you got to deal with your things in your quote unquote real life first. But is that because you're spending so much time researching places and looking for these lesser known places, or is it just you're a lot more choosy, or what is the reason for the long breaks in between your investigations?
Well, let's see. How do I answer that? Sometime like this past year, I lost probably at least 14 family members, super duper close, and spread out
Right.
from there. That's one reason. Second reason is, between Texas and Indy, and they both have my hearts as well as Ohio. I have my daughter Erica, who's in Ohio. My son is in Texas, and so it's easier to do that. And I have a funny schedule; I can work that out. But sometimes, paranormal wise, I can get a little, I wouldn't say bored necessarily, but
Right.
trying to find my way. Sometimes I need to take a step back and reevaluate everything and see where what do I need
Gotcha.
to do from here? And what do I need to focus on for the moment? And, while I've been doing that, I've been really picky and choosy at the same time who I'm going to investigate with, where, how, and trying to find out what I want to do that's different. Paranormal is just not like that big. It's massive. I mean, it
Absolutely.
covers so much, so much. And hunting ghosts every weekend isn't like what I want to keep doing all the time. I
Right.
want to be able to do some different things.
I got you.
And some of the places that I've investigated, I don't want to dig a little deeper and see what I can find, and maybe do a revisit or maybe look further. I don't know. But yeah, I'm kind of tiptoeing going through this process because it's just been absolutely insane for me, and not just for me. I mean, I can handle but when it's my family that I see hurting, like, when my mom lost my dad,
Right.
and you're powerless. And so, like, you're right, life just comes in and it's like, hello,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here.
Yep. It is
But
not biased in
it's
any way,
good
is it?
too. No, it's a good thing too. I
Yeah.
love Texas. Come on down there and check it out. I want to do all kinds of stuff down there.
I've been down there once. We went down there for a family vacation to San Antonio. Had a great time.
Okay,
So
I'm about 3.5 hours maybe from San Antonio.
okay. So, yeah, we were down
So
there. We saw the Alamo. Had a great time. We took the walking
yeah,
ghost history
the,
tour. Had a good time with that. And
the river walk.
so
Did you do that?
the what? The River Walk. Yeah, we saw the River Walk. Yes, we did. Yep.
Yeah. That's
Um,
always.
yeah, it was really nice. It was. What do you got next coming up on your schedule? Or you haven't planned that far ahead?
I'm careful now because I'm just no, no pun intended. I'm just waiting for somebody to say that somebody died again or something. I don't know because
Right.
every time I take a deep breath, it's kind of and this one, this past recent where the ex husband was murdered. I That one is pretty major. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah. How's Erica doing?
she is okay. She
Okay.
Yeah, she was daddy's little girl, so she's
Oh,
having a.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But you know
Um,
what? She's a trooper. I mean, they had a showing on Saturday, and on Monday she went to work, and I'm like my hero, you know. So
kids will
she's my
surprise you with their resilience, won't they?
do what?
I said kids will surprise you with their resilience.
Especially her.
Oh,
She's been
well,
through much.
there you go.
So Firehouse Revisit. What was it? Oh, okay. Yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. Because there were some really cool things there. I mean, we couldn't recreate what Alan Jinkerson had done. We were
Right.
getting some K2 hits that just did not make sense. We did not feel it was paranormal.
Okay.
Um, but we're hoping that EVPs come through more because there wasn't like a whole lot of other activity. But I know that when we were going down toward the chief's office, that's the one where the ramp is. I don't know if you'll
Okay.
remember it, but that's where the chief's office was. And Jason was in front of me. And I was coming around that corner and the K2 hit. And I went down to look at it. And as soon as I did something back here, it went. And then Jason later said that he felt something heavy on his back, but it like I screamed. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, that was that freak, and you could see it. I swear to God, it was like a black shadow, and it was close. It was like it was charging, and I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
that's crazy. But then it would be like nothing. It'd be quiet.
Um, Another thing that I'd like you to have in the back of your brain, he wants to go. I've got to get him back to meet Mr. Couch at the Rhodes Hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, I
He
know.
definitely wants
Yeah.
to get there.
Yes.
So we got to set that up. That place was fantastic.
Oh, I have no doubts about that. Remember, I was there with you guys. It's awesome,
Yeah. Well,
and
you
I
set it
know
up, and it was
paranormal.
me, you, and Mike, and Livy, and
Well,
Will. Um, yeah, and your other friend stopped in for a little bit, and his name
Rod
escapes me.
Fogel,
That's him.
Rod
That's
Fogel,
him. Yeah, he stopped in for a little bit. Yeah.
right?
Um,
And so did Guy or Opera Jeff Phillips.
Yep,
Jeff's
from Geyer. And that's another place I
and
think Jim's interested in because we had talked with Kayla from Dayton Haunted Explorers, and they were just gushing about the Opera House as well. So um, yeah, but that's one of the places we're going to look to set up, getting a hold of Tim and setting up the roads. Um, so you know that's definitely something we'll try and work out with you logistically as well. So
yeah, and I'm gonna call it Thurber House again. Just see if I can
okay.
bug Leah like just one more time, please. Like I don't know, but I would book that thing in a heartbeat.
Well, that's one of the ones you keep saying you want to go back to is the Thurber House.
Yeah.
Especially the way we had those kids playing Duck Duck Goose over in the Thurber Center next door. That was fantastic. We had such a good time with that. They were all about playing games. You remember that? So,
Yeah. I remember when I think it was Janet who pointed out the little boy who felt he was left out.
yep.
And that was like just, oh my gosh, it was
Yeah, he was standing
heartbreaking
that
too.
back end by where the sliding closet doors were. Yeah. Yeah, we had a good
Yeah.
time with that. And then remember you and I had something that we were at the top of the stairway at the end of the hall, and it was down
Yeah.
at the bottom looking up at us when we got on the SLS.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
that place was
remember,
fantastic.
it was, and we were standing at the top of the landing. You were down at the bottom pointing the XLS up. And
Yep.
so me and Mike and then Jim was kind of like sitting there. And I kept feeling this little thing tingle in my back pocket, but my phone was dying, so I put it back there. And you said, hey, there's like a figure between, it's like a figure and then me, a figure, and then Mike. Mike had
Yep.
the little girl, I had a little boy. And then Rebecca's like, he's trying to play with your phone in your pocket. He's wanting to know what that is. Do
Yeah,
you remember that?
I do. I
And
do
I'm like,
remember
oh my
that.
God, that's why my butt is tingling. He wondered what it was.
Yeah, we
That was
kept
so
trying to
funny.
get to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, just out of
So
curiosity, completely off topic, but do Will and Livy still live right there at the road, right across from the roads there?
if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, I don't know that if they're together or where they live at.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
you can look on her Facebook, I think,
Okay.
or something like that, because she's on my friends list, but I'm not sure because when we did the murder mystery dinner earlier this year with Jason Snyder and
Right.
Livy and that group all helped out. That's the last time I saw her, and I forgot. But Will wasn't even there,
Huh.
so I don't know.
Okay. Speaking of which, we're in the beginning stages of planning doing a murder mystery dinner at the Hoover House. But we
Oh,
don't know if we're going to try and create our own thing or if we're going to just go on the internet and get one. You know what I mean? But it's big enough. The look of the house fits that type of thing so well. So it's definitely something we're going to invest in and schedule and take care of because it's. I just think that's the perfect setting. You know what I mean? It's like it was when you guys used to do them at the Bel Air, but bigger because their place is almost 8,000 square feet. So
wow, that is insane.
yeah, so we're going to be setting one of those up, hopefully sooner rather than later. We had, I was out of work for 2 weeks because my wife had COVID. She actually got to go back to work before I did. That didn't make any sense to me, but whatever. And then, Pam had to quarantine. She had it. And so, but business is starting to pick up. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Jim said we basically had some walk-ins yesterday that filled us up for the weekend. So foot traffic
Oh,
is now starting to pick up on there. So
Yeah. I think Pam told me, I think until Thanksgiving, I think we're sort of booked this weekend.
yeah. And next weekend, next Saturday, we got an event with the Kling brothers.
They're
I know
coming up
them.
from Texas. And
Yeah.
then Friday, don't we have Bobby Richardson there from
Yep.
Lilydale?
Bobby Robinson.
Bobby
Yeah.
Robinson from Lilydale.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's the person who taught Pam and Steve, who then taught us how to table tip. So we're looking forward to seeing her as well. So, but like I said, obviously you are very hesitant as far as scheduling too far out, just because of the way things have been the past year. And nobody can fault you for that. But it's definitely a must, at least for us, to get you out our way and get you into that house.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
Well, like I said, I have no doubt. I have no doubt he's going to come through for you. And it's really weird. Spirit constantly reinforces that. They know when their loved ones are coming to the house. And sometimes they're there about a day or a half a day before the people show up. And you can feel it. You can feel this. We need one of those little signs, instead of serving number 32, we have spirits that are present. Ding, 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 ding. Sometimes We actually, this has happened in the past. We have one of those GS2 grid systems. I don't know if you've worked with them before, but it's who do we get that from? Is that Ghost?
Ghost Augustine.
No, it's not Ghost.
Ghost Stop.
Ghost Stop, I think. Really neat system. It throws out a grid. You can adjust the grid, and they actually have a newer model with additional refinements. And in the grid, once it centers, you turn on the grid. It goes through a cycle and it calibrates itself. Once it's calibrated, and you can, like I said, you can alter the size of the grid, but you'll see this red grid pattern. Once it's calibrated, anything breaking into that grid or whatever, it starts to show up on this little screen on the unit.
It's a display on the front of it, yeah.
And then if the energy comes to you, it'll move up. It starts to give a different
gives lights and
sounds.
If it's really close, you'll hear it
beeping and all that. So you know something's approaching you. But it'll actually produce the spirits as little blue dots on the screen.
If they're giving off a cold signature, if they're giving off a heat signature,
then it's red dots. Red. Goes up both ways. Mm-hmm. And we've actually, oftentimes we do a lot of the sessions. The one table we have, Emma, which is our top table, she wants the sessions done in the one parlor area. She has worked other places and she'll travel too. But in the Hoover house, she prefers the one parlor area. So we have another parlor right across the hallway from this room. And we'll set up the grid system shooting into the other parlor. And you can see starts, as we're doing a session here, you'll see this dot start coming on the grid and lining up. And sometimes it'll be like a dozen or so waiting to come through. And we can only communicate or interact with one spirit at a time. Like if they're all vying for position at the table, you got to sort of ask one to back off, one or more to back off. And
so the other parlor acts as a waiting room.
It sort of does.
And it's verified by the way it's setting off the laser grid.
And you'll see like the dots, you can count them. And then sometimes like when we'll finish the session with the one, so when we call the other spirit forward, a dot will go off the one grid system. And then as it presents itself in the room with us, it's really, we were at the Gettysburg Inn, remember, with the
in Lincoln Square.
In Lincoln Square, the Purple Dahlia psychic, and she was I think it was like she had 6 or 7 spirits presenting before her at the time, and she knew who all they were. They were family members, and the grid system had like 7 dots. And then one of them, we're running the Phasma box, and one of them says, "I'm leaving now." And she felt the spirit leaving, no lie. Then boop, and one of the dots went off, and now he had 6. And she was like, "Holy crap." It's like, it really is a neat device. The problem we had with it was they had an internal battery. So if you're running it without a main power source, it would run out. And there was a problem in the integration.
It wouldn't accept the charge. So once that initial charge on that internal battery went off, it wouldn't run unless it was plugged in. And even then the battery would be fighting for power. Basically, the power cable coming in from your power source and that internal battery would be trying to fight to see who gets to power the thing. And it would throw the grids all off. The grid would just turn solid blue.
So they discovered a problem in their coding. We were able to help them find that out. And they stick by the products. And we're not talking about a cheap item here. I mean, I think they're like $280 or something. So they're not nickel and dime.
Right.
And but they stuck by it, and we returned it, and they fixed the one, but they told us they had discovered this issue, and then ultimately they have replaced. We actually have 2 of them, they replaced ultimately both of them. And then the latest, they gave us a newer system, which has a couple additional adjustments. So, I mean, we loved the product. We didn't like the fact that it was broke a lot of times and wouldn't work, but the company stuck by the product, and they, when you contacted them, they got back to you right away. I mean,
less than a business day.
Yeah, got to give them really high marks.
Customer service,
and staying by.
Yep.
Yeah,
because that's something a lot of people tell us. Issues with some of these product makers. You just can't get in touch with them.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been a supply issue, with everything. Since COVID, all these supply chains are broken. And for them to get specific parts that they need for some of the equipment has been a challenge. And so sometimes it's been difficult for the equipment makers to either repair or to make new product. But they stick right by you, and they really keep you up to date. So we always like to put out a good word when people are reputable in their dealings.
Now you're still a minimalist when it comes to equipment, aren't you? You got your recorder and maybe a K2 or something, and then you pretty much just go with that, yeah?
Yeah, because I travel too much. I don't want to carry things. And every time I'm here, I don't have that. And if I'm there, I don't have that. So
right.
And
truth be known, we don't use half this stuff anymore. I mean, it's just Dave and I. So one of us is generally tied up either running the video or doing the audio or the Phasma box or with the table. So
right.
We really we may put out a couple REM pods and some K2s,
Hopefully you get those 2 new members. That would change.
That would help. That really would help.
But we have gotten with Haley lately. She did come out and visit us at the bash, and yep, she did come. She did make it to the bash, and then she came out to. We were doing something, and she came out and
the bridge.
Oh, when we did the upper bridge on the road to Antietam a few weekends back, and she went with us. And then we stopped over to Hoover House, so she got to get in there for the first time. And yeah, we had a really, it was really good to just get back out and do something. I mean, I don't want it to sound the wrong way. I love everything we're doing over at the Hoover House, but just to get back out in the field, do something different, that's something I've been chomping at the bit for. So.
Yeah, Monroe House would be awesome for you guys to go to. I mean, I really, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something we want to get set up. The Monroe Mystery House, yes, absolutely. And like I said, Old South Pittsburgh is one of the ones we've moved to the forefront to get to. And then there's a couple more that aren't as far, like say Hillview Manor, which is here in Pennsylvania, which we've never done, but we'd love to get to. There's bucket list stuff like Malvern out in Iowa, Villisca out in Iowa, of course, Trans-Allegheny. We want to go back to Mansfield. We want to go back to Moundsville. So
definitely.
Now you were with us at Moundsville when we had our piece of equipment broken in that second floor bathroom.
Right.
Because if I remember correctly, we were in the giant common room after we had set that equipment up, and you kept getting something on your back. So you and I ended up sitting back to back so that, we could kind of alleviate that. And shortly after we did that, whatever it was must have got mad because I was blocking it or whatever and just trash our equipment in the bathroom. So we definitely want to get back there. And we need to get you, while you're out in Moundsville with us, if we ever get back there, we need to get you out to see Steve Hummel's Museum, Archives of the
Where
Afterlife. What's
because he
that?
moved it, right? He moved it from the
Yeah,
Sanford.
he moved it out of,
Yeah,
there
I
was
haven't seen
something with
it then.
the stuff going on over that Sanford building, so they moved to a different area just outside of Moundsville. But yeah,
Okay.
so and he's got so much great stuff in that place.
I bet.
And we've also got one coming up here soon. Pam just posted we're going back to investigate the James and Jess House of Goods antique store
I
right down the
saw that.
street from the Hoover House. We've been there a couple times, and that place is unbelievable. There was 2 dolls that were sitting in a basket back to back. There we go. And so we put a K2 in the lap of this one and the K2 in the lap of the other one. And we started asking questions, and we would ask specifically, okay, we got their names, and then we would ask specifically to this one, okay, so-and-so, if you're here, let us know. That K2 would go off. Say, okay, well, which one of you is named this? The other K2 would go off. I mean, they were answering intelligently with those K2s. It was fantastic. We had Kayla Miner, who's a dear friend of ours and is a psychic medium. She was in there, and my daughter got an EVP. They have one wall. It's a big collection of old milk bottles, like the milkmen would deliver. And my daughter was standing over there near it. She got an EVP. I got a figure of an adult on the SLS at the milk bottles, and without knowing any of that, Kayla goes, there's a man standing over the milk bottles. He's a delivery man. He's still working. So she didn't know, but when she said that, we had the stuff to corroborate it. So that place is fantastic. And like I said, it's literally 2 or 3 blocks down the street from us. So
wow.
we're going to be going back in there. And again, there's a couple other places in town that you can drive by and you just know that there's activity in there. And we're working on making the connections with the owners to be able to offer those as public events as well. So
that would be awesome. What do you guys have coming up?
We got the event this coming weekend, next weekend, I should say, with the Kling brothers. And then other than that, we don't have anything scheduled. We, with me starting that new job, it's tough. I haven't been there long enough to take vacation. And I work Monday to Friday, 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then Saturdays from 5 to 1. So today is my only day off. And I'm up at 3:30 every other morning of the week. So I can't do anything Friday night because I got to get up 3:30 Saturday morning. And then doing something Saturday night is not easy because I'm just exhausted, man. I'm getting old,
Well, yeah. Right.
But we're definitely getting a couple different places on the books. So, we keep talking about it, but it's definitely something we've got to get moving on, especially now with me working and being able to contribute financially. Hopefully that'll alleviate some of the burden on Jim. But absolutely, if you get those places again, the Monroe House and Thurber and all these, absolutely keep us in the loop because they're definitely places we want to either get to the first time or get back to. So,
absolutely, especially Monroe.
Yeah, because we've been talking about that for a good 7-8 months now.
And hopefully I get myself to some base level here. Find out what the hell's been going on and get myself going on a steady pace. I'll tell you, it's been my energy and all that's been an issue for several months now. But I mean, whatever was going on the last week just had me scared. It really did. So hopefully Hopefully we
Speaking
can figure out what's
of
going on.
investigations, Ted is in, our producer Ted, owner of the station, and he said when we're up there in March for the Rochester Pear Fest that we agreed to be a part
Right.
of, he has an investigation for us.
Cool.
So
Very good.
that'll be awesome. That's my birthday present there. All right, so it's 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our commercial break and then come back and continue the show. So everybody stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
WLFE Digital Network is now on digital television. If you're into ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, and the creepy, then WLFE has a TV channel for you, Paranormal View. Watch all of your favorite WLFE video talk shows on one channel. Shows like Paratalk Radio, Step Into the Paranormal, Skeptical Help Bar, The Creepy Parlor, and more. Looking for something else? Do you support the LGBTQ plus community? WLFE has brought all of their LGBTQ shows like Inside the Drag Closet, Everything Yet Nothing, Across the Pond, and Rainbow Soul all into one place. A new TV channel called LGBTQ Friends. The third channel is a Variety Unlimited. Here you'll find a wide variety of talk shows you know and love, like Just Cindy, Card Pulls and Coffee, Real Talk with Nom, The Bipolar DM, Meet the Author, and Movie Review 5. The best part of watching these shows is that they're all available to watch at one location, one website, WLFE-DB.com.
You are listening to WLFE-DBRadio.com, where our shows are your shows.
Listen to the WLFE-DB podcast, available on Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Check out shows like Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and Step Into the Paranormal. Now, on to your favorite podcast app.
This is Dominic Santasero with Real Talk with Dom. You are listening to WLFE-DBRadio.com, where our shows are your shows.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Casey DeVille, the better half of DeVille Inc., Baltimore, Maryland. If you're ever in Baltimore, stop in and see me and Tony. Invisible Bree, 5920 Eastern Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Give us a call if you're in the area at 410-400-9641, or look us up on the web at DeVilleInc.com. DeVille Inc., where we specialize in you.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE-DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
You're listening to WLFE DB Radio. Now, back to our program.
All right. Well, Dave's on a quick break. So
Okay.
he'll be, let me hit the comments. There I can see him. So okay. Cisco's, let me send Cisco a messenger, the email. Let me, as soon as Dave gets back, I'll send that to her so she's not picking. We had like I said, it's been a sort of a crazy year. Dave got his job here recently, and they're on all this mandatory overtime and everything else. So having to work, like I said, every day except Sunday, has really put a crimp in for the short term, getting out to do things. So we're hopeful by next year we'll have much more time that we can get back into. Me, I'm retired now, so it doesn't matter. But we do have a number of places. We've actually had some really great invites to and all that. And hopefully next year we can scale them in. And that's why I'd sort of like to have some other members of the group too, so we can at least get out. We were hopeful to have Janet in on the bash, but she had to cancel out last second. And I still owe Dave a trip out to Carson City. Janet lives out in Nevada near Lake Tahoe. And of course, she almost lost her house. They had them terrible fires. And they were they got within 10 miles of her house. Cisco said she didn't get.
Yeah, I'm going to send it to her.
Okay.
Chat window there.
All right.
And I'm back. So where do we leave off?
I was just discussing how Janet, was impacted. We were hoping to get her in for the bash, but we had the fires were threatening her house and all that. So it's been a real hodgepodge. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Right.
Sent.
I really yearn for the old days where things were just, I don't know, just never so chaotic and uncertain.
We're going to be having another guest jump in here in a minute. Our dear friend Cisco Murdoch from
I
Jersey.
may have to jump off real quick. Or
No, that's
maybe.
fine.
My iPad is charging, but it still says 8%. So I'm looking, okay.
That's fine. If you got to go, you got to go. That's fine. We're just glad you were able to join us on such short notice.
Well,
one thing I wanted to pop in yesterday actually, was the anniversary of the first Twilight Zone episode. That's a lot of people. It's a favorite show. It was on October 2nd, 1959. Was the debut show, and Daily Variety has actually said it was probably the most accomplished half-hour show that TV's ever produced. Just a few little points of interest I was reading about. In the first episode, how we're all so used to the narration and Rod Serling steps in. Well, on the very first episode, it was not Rod Serling.
No Rod Serling? Who was
on the very first, the guy who gave the narration, this is a good trivia question, was actually, his name was Westbrook von Voorhis. For the episode 1 that debuted, and then starting with the second one, we had the traditional, and the original pilot was a thing called The Happy Place. And the plot was that when people would turn 60 years old, they would be eliminated, executed. And that was actually turned down by CBS because they thought it was too dark. And so the first episode that actually debuted, the name of that was Where Is Everybody? And just to refresh everyone's minds, a guy finds his town and jukebox is on, the lights are on, but there's nobody. And he's wandering through the town and doing all this stuff. And of course, constantly thinking someone's there and all this stuff's engaged, but there is nobody. And then at the very end of it, comes out that he was an astronaut. And it was a test checking out loneliness and isolation and how they would respond. So he was in a test scenario, and I guess this was the way his mind was going and, creating this town and all, but nobody was around. When we get when we get Cisco on us.
She's
She's
here.
there. Okay,
Yep,
great.
we're going to go ahead and add Cisco in.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, I don't know, Cisco, if you've met Lola Carter before. It's a good friend of ours.
Hello.
I'm not
Nice to meet you.
You too.
And this
So
is our
I'm gonna
good
jump
friend,
off.
Cisco Murdoch.
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm
so
gonna
many
go ahead
people.
and jump off.
Okay. Have a good one. Thank you for coming on for such short notice.
Good seeing you,
Bye,
Lola.
guys. Thank you.
Take
Nice
care,
to meet
hon.
you, Cisco.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
So, Cisco, I pulled off of your for some of your listing, and I got the reading about this. I thought maybe you could fill us in a little more.
Say what? You pulled off of my what? Now hang on, Jim. I'm
Okay,
totally
well,
unprepared here, and I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll fill you in.
Disclaimer: I have zero idea what Jim is about to, what he's pulled out of what. So just,
Okay.
I'm innocent till proven
Okay.
guilty.
Well, I didn't know if you. This is in your native. This is in your state, New Jersey.
Oh, Jersey.
yeah. And I
Now I
didn't
know I'm not responsible.
Okay. And I didn't know if you've been there, but
Okay. I got the sage going, so go let her rip.
okay. It's in Passaic County,
Yeah.
and it's at Clinton Road.
Oh, Clinton Road, yeah. No, I've not been there. Heard a
Not
lot about
been-
it, though. Yeah, I
they
just...
got. Oh my gosh! Let me throw this
Go
out.
ahead,
to
throw it
the audience. It says here. Here's somebody's sort of take on it. Where else can one find a place where Satan worshippers hide behind every tree, sacrifice goats and chickens litter the woods,
Oh, my.
black trucks driven by escaped lunatics
Sounds like Jersey.
chase innocent teenagers over dark pothole roads, disembodied children laughter
Oh, okay.
emanate from remote playgrounds. In 1905, the woods were infested with bands of robbers, counterfeiters,
Uh-huh.
witches held nightly dances,
Yep.
ghosts, wild animals, remnants of an old castle.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that grabbed me was I don't know anybody familiar with modern day crime, but the Iceman, the famous
Oh, yeah.
mob hitman.
Mm.
It was a favorite area for him, dumping grounds. And the
Oh,
story
man.
is that a guy was riding his bicycle on it, and he saw a number of large vultures coming out of the woods. And he was wondering why you have all these vultures in the woods.
Mm.
And he went back there, and he really sort of started sensing something was amiss and seeing some things. So he contacted the police. And in going back there, they started uncovering some of these bodies that the Iceman had put there. Some of them were beheaded and all kind of other stuff.
Right.
Different stages of decomposition.
You've also got the KKK was rumored to be active in the area in the day. You've got a famous portion of the road called Dead Man's Curve.
Okay.
You've got, and I was actually online looking at blog sites.
Right.
A number of people have seen UFOs and aliens and everything
Oh, yeah.
around.
Yeah. We got unexploded torpedoes stuck in the boardwalk. We've got sunken ships. The 1938, the Monroe Castle.
Yep.
With all of the, horrid it was. People think that, not to cut you off, but this is, why. You think about the shoreline. We've got 136 miles shoreline out here. All of the stuff happening on the beach, the water. It's always a draw for, food, for fishing, for boating. People coming over to Ellis Island, from all the different countries, right, for multiple years. And, mariners and lobster and clammers, just for eons. For how long? Water's always a draw, right? So anybody that's got a coastline, they've got ghost stories, But the Monroe Castle, people think that, well, why didn't they jump in the water? Well, if you're standing on the side of this, it's almost like looking at, 5-6-story building, and you jump off and the water at that point in time is like hitting concrete. you know, and it's on fire and you can't see. And, you know, there was so much in the Morro Castle story about revenge and an engineer that was having a fight with the captain, and he was a pyro. In fact, he was tied into like 3 or 4 other fires where he just got basically a slap on the wrist or a small time in jail. But it was arson that he was hooked up with. So the fire on Morro Castle is what started it. But, you know, all the dead were pulled in. Multiple heroes were also born that day because people jumped in boats to try to save the people that were surviving in the water or burnt or drowning or whatever was happening. Broken bones, can't swim. Oh my God, you know, the horror. You imagine the energy buildup. Well, it actually moored itself and continued to burn for days against, in Asbury Park, New Jersey, up against the dock there where the Convention Hall and Paramount Theater is, where, you know, as kids in the 70s and 80s and, you know, later gone back, but beyond that, going to concerts, rock concerts, where I saw ZZ Top and Judas Priest. Yeah, and Iron Maiden and, you know, all kinds of people, man, you know. I mean, we just, you know, everybody from the Talking Heads to, you know, AC/DC and back again. So the energy that's at the water, if you think about it, you know. We've got the moon cursors. I know we talked about that, moon wreckers, that people are actually, if they fall asleep on the beach at the right time, at the right, I guess, you know, movement in time or overlapping layers of time, whatever you want to call it, have been woken up being flipped over by people that look just as solid as they, and but more like a pirate, you know, from those times. And they're going through their pockets and flipping them over and shaking them, and you know. Can you imagine? Yeah, rolling them, mugging them on the beach. Ghost mugging teenagers with hangovers, man. After I heard that, I was like, oh gosh, all the times I slept on the beach after a bonfire, you know, everybody just chills on the blanket. And it's always yucky to wake up because you got all that salt air thickness on you. But
yeah, I've never done that.
Oh, yeah, I can tell you. We used to be able to sleep under the boardwalk, just pull yourself like half in, and you'd get woke up because of the people walking on the boardwalk, dropping the sand through the boards would get you, and it would wake you up.
Now, I would imagine sand is a pretty nice mattress, though, right? Because it sort of shifts.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you're drunk, Jim, so it doesn't really, you know, because you've been sitting up all night playing guitar. Back when you could do this, you know, you could play guitar and have a bonfire, and people bring a cooler, and then you don't want to drive, so you just think, I'm just going to sit here a minute. Next thing you know, the beachcomber's coming at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the headlights are, it's like, man, wake up. But, you know, that's a thing that happens. The moonrakers are still haunting the beaches and flipping over, going through pockets of the living. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. You know, Jersey Devil, that's one that's a legend lore I never quite... It was one that you just put on the shelf with Ripley's Believe It or Not. You know, you just kind of, to me, it's a great backstory. It's a great story, but the Pine Barrens are creepy.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, and it's so remote and it's so extensive. I mean, you can't narrow anything down.
And it's scrub high, a lot of it. So it's like, you know, scrub high chin, like 4 foot, 4.5 foot, and then you've got the tall stuff too. So it's just creepy getting through there. And, you know, the more, it's real sandy soil, and I'm right here, I'm right there. I
never thought of it, but that's a very unique area. I mean, I really don't know if I've seen anything of that expansiveness and stuff elsewhere on the East Coast.
Right. I mean, there's so many stories too. You know, I think I've told you the one about the Lenape chief. You know, I'm Lenape and Cherokee and a little Scottish, and he had a young wife. Back then, it was, you know, that's what they did, and he was kind of, you know, overbearing, you know, and they used to walk across what's now a park through downtown Asbury and go towards the shore before all the boardwalk and stuff was there, and go clam digging, and then come back half a day later. Well, anyway, one day she didn't come back, and the townspeople all thought that he may have killed her. There was sparse townspeople at that time, but they were still intermingling and still living, you know. And so now she's seen by herself, the two of them together, and him like searching through what's a little patch. It's about a block by a block, like a good town block by a block, just a little patch in amongst what used to be very big downtown Asbury Park, and now it's come back over the past couple years. But in my lifetime, I've watched it be the height of all things, or men in suits and fedora hats and women in hats and gloves and high heels were, tripping down through downtown Asbury. I kind of grew up there because my aunt and uncle owned a store there in the 60s for like 50 years. So I got to see it when it was in its heyday, and then it kind of went down in its 70s. The movie The Wrestler with...
Mickey Rourke.
Yes, I love Mickey Rourke. Yeah,
Yep.
They came here. All of that was Asbury Park Boardwalk, and he even said it was a haunting experience to walk through Convention Hall midwinter with the stuff, the wind blowing and the snow on the boardwalk, But you get that feeling. I myself have been there. I've seen orbs. I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've felt a young boy kind of run by and turn around and come back. His energy just came back and got real close, like, who are you, but not in any kind of duress. He was just there, Many have heard from the Monroe Castle, because they pulled the dead and lined them up on the theater stage for identification, for the loved ones to come by and identify them for days upon days upon days. And we have a whole double-lane highway. Well, now it's a 4-lane highway, but we have a whole Route 18 was actually built so people from up north could make a beeline right down to that, what at the time was the spectacle of all times, to see something like that. It lasted for weeks and weeks. Can you imagine having a road built just to see a catastrophe? Well, we also had the Lakehurst. The Hindenburger was here, too.
Yeah, true. Right, Lakehurst. Yeah.
Yeah, right down,
absolutely.
A couple miles away. I remember my mom talking about that one.
I think Nova did a really neat piece here recently where they re-examined the whole, the events and stuff with that. And I'm trying to remember what they came up with. I think. Oh yeah, I know. They were talking about the static electricity and all that stuff creating it. So they really sort of discounted the theory that a lot of people have advanced, that it was sabotage because of its tie-ins to Nazi Germany.
Gosh, I don't know, but I just remember my mom telling me, my grandpa put everybody in the car and they rode out there to take a good look at it. It's just, after it was all over, now I think there's like a cement thing or something, a little plaque or whatever where it was. But at the time, my goodness, and the way they did it on the radio, there was very much like a War of the Worlds right around the same time.
Yeah.
Right around the same time, that whole, I dig that whole old radio stuff so much.
Yeah.
The Shadow and CBS Mystery Theater, I'm a huge fan of that.
Oh, the humanity.
Yeah, the humanity. But all that was supposedly beefed up too, but I can't imagine having to beef it up seeing something like that.
Wow,
People falling out, coming, on fire. It's horrible, But that's a lot of energy, and then that's not even to mention what happened before we ever started recording things, the massacres and the fights and the battle over ground and, for life, all through here.
And intertribal,
Lots of it,
There was a gentleman in Waynesboro who, I guess up to about maybe 12 years ago, had a ghost walk on Main Street, right there. And I guess the Hoover House was the last stop on the ghost walk.
Oh, cool.
And his couple stories were the ones that pretty much the previous owner had told me that he had experienced. Nothing related to the basement.
Mm-hmm.
You'll enjoy this. My sister was there a couple weeks ago with a friend who is a pretty strong, picking up psychic impressions and all that. And she picked up the same young woman who we think was murdered out in the alleyway. Remember?
Told you.
Yeah, she was picking up. And I said, "Oh yeah, no, Cisco's already picked up on that. We think it was out in the alleyway." But yeah, she felt a very strong impression that
she's huge on betrayal, man. She's like, you know, this is what happened to me when I trusted somebody, and she's big on that. But I still believe she's working that off. But I think it might be one of those things where she's working off the anger or whatever it might be, helping the guy who actually did it to her.
Gotcha.
You know? And I think he's the one that's stuck there, not her. But she's going to frequent. That's the feeling I got anyway. I could be totally reading it wrong. But that's why I was so quiet in the basement. And I was just listening. And I'm just sitting there listening to it. Because if you stop in the middle and go, hey, guys, I got somebody talking to my... You know, that sometimes scares them away. You just got to focus, you know?
Now, this brings up a question to me that you might have some insight into. Like you said, she's working that off, and maybe she's working off something with the guy who did it to her. But
right.
When, as investigators, when we're like from this side of the realm and we're making contact and blah blah blah, does that interfere with that process in a negative way at all?
I think it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. It can actually speed it up, I think. And think about this, too. You know, people think interfering. I mean, I got in a discussion with somebody I won't mention right now because he's as famous as you can be in this. And I didn't have no bones about standing up going, okay, I totally disagree with that. You know me. And, but it had to do with animals and things like that, you know. Interference. You know, I think the interference is going into a place like Vasila Axe Murder House and constantly calling these spirits and then not helping them. That's what I think interference is. Because we don't know how long it takes them to get their energy built up and stuff. But, you know, helping them might not be all the way to the ultimate of crossing them over, yeah? It might be you're the next step through your energy. You know how spirit and universe works. Yours might be the next step to get them to understand their next part, just like it does in the living. You know, if you ever gotten lessons from perfect strangers, right? That's what that book, 5 People You Meet in Heaven, represents so much. If you know, again, if you're looking for an escape out of the world for a little while, get the book. You know, the audiobook's free, I believe, on YouTube. Just check it out. You'll find it, or Audible or something. And if not, watch the movie. John Voight plays the lead, the one who dies, and finds out just how much little what we think are accidental bump intos or meetings with somebody was profound in the way we've chosen to walk in our life, or for them as well. Nothing's ever one-sided. So your question to, does that interfere? No, I think it might help him understand what she's trying to do. Somebody down there with that communication between the two of them, he might be talking to her, but he's listening, or he might not even be aware she's there. There's so many levels to...
And that just brought a question, just came to mind, and I was meaning to, next time I talk with you, I was going to ask you this. About a week ago, we had a pair of sisters. They were meeting together. The one sister owns a farm about 10 miles or so north of Gettysburg, and has horses and, other kind of animals and that. And the other sister lives in Utah now. They were visiting, and they wanted to come over and do a session at the Hoover House. So we all got together. Jenny and Bob come over. We had Emma. Anyhow, the sister who owns the horse farm was telling us that there's a section, an area there on the farm where doesn't matter whatever else is going on, the animals get very skittish, particularly the horses. They just get up, and it just, in that area, something there just gets to them. And as she's telling that, we were at the table, suddenly I had a very clear image of what was going on. And what it was that area was an area where they had burned tons of these carcasses of the horses killed at the Battle of Gettysburg. You know, how they just piled them up like cordwood and had these huge fires. Well, that was it. I actually even smelled burnt flesh. While this is going on, I'm actually smelling the burnt flesh. And we're having verification of all this.
Right.
my question is, we're always working with the human spirits from the Battle of Gettysburg and there.
Right.
Animals, are they, because of the uniqueness of the animal spirit, and in many ways it's actually above the humans, but could it be that some horses need assistance in passing over
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah. So what we could do is, what would you do for horses that were sitting out there alive in a field, and you were just trying to get them to be calm and know that they were cared for and loved? You see what I'm saying? So if you wanted to do something like that, probably with just a minimal amount of equipment, like maybe EVP recorders, something like that, I would bring oats and apples. And water, absolutely, water and pears, and get a blanket. Now, I would go Native American on it, and I'll tell you why. Because in Native American lore, you sit and be still, and you put your energy out there, and the horse comes and chooses you out of the group. See? Gotcha. And that way, the horse is a better judge of your character than, you to read them. So,
she gave us permission.
I would do that. I would sit on a blanket, and I would just sit and just palms out and just, offer the apples and speak telepathically through as well as verbally. If there are any animals here, any horses, your brave battle, I would talk about it because, like if you talk to a dog that's going into a canine police dog or something, or you see a dog going into the dog show, they know where they are, they know what they're doing. Those horses knew as well, just like a horse knows in a race. So I would do that and just sit out and just pretend, maybe even close your eyes and try to envision them and see if they connect into that energy, and then maybe call over whoever was there, had connection to those horses. They know that because energy's there.
Yeah, I have a connection to horses anyhow and stuff, and they. But okay, because that just as we were doing that, I had a very strong impression that we should do some work on behalf of those
Why
horses.
Not? Why not? Absolutely, because it's just loving them across. So if they're confused,
no. You weren't there that night. This was a friend of my sister, Janice, she's a quilting buddy, and she was in visiting her sister, and her sister has this. It's about 25 acres there, just north of Gettysburg. And she was the one telling us about this area of the farm where she has, it's obviously something affecting the animals there. Mm-hmm. And, so it was sort of weird as we're doing it. The imaging was pretty strong. And like I said, I actually was picking up burnt flesh.
Sure.
How that smells.
So that might just be, if you're feeling that, more than likely they would, that wouldn't be I would guess that might not be them. It might be the horses for sure, but not their spirit doing it. I think that's more of a residual maybe, since it was such an impact, but we don't know. So it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to sit, on a blanket and just be quiet and still and offer them. And like I said, call somebody from the other side who has a connection with them, or, there's specific spirit guides that are there for animals and angels and things like that too. Call them. Yeah.
That would be
Rob. Rob is amazing. Yeah, I have him on next week. I think it's next week or the week after. I just love him.
That's great.
Yeah, I love Rob.
And give him our best regards.
Is he not the best? He's just the best.
We're trying to get him up to the Hoover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he talked earlier when we had him the last time we had him on our show earlier this year. He said, some weekend him and his partner would probably come up.
And
we'd love to have an event there, Adam, where people could come, with all of their, the love people have.
Oh gosh, yeah. He would be absolutely fabulous. Let me know. I'd love to be there.
Yeah.
Let me know way ahead of time.
I told him we'd give him a real nice weekend.
Oh, shoot,
Speaking of being there, Jim tells me that you're...
Yeah, I'm coming.
Coming back?
I'm coming back. Me and Tone are coming. I don't know if Mario can. He's got a gig that weekend. So it's probably myself and Tone. I have a lady that booked a room same weekend there at the Hoover, coming from the Poconos, who's a listener of mine on my show.
Oh, wow.
And her boyfriend, she's so excited, and she's just like us, wide open heart, just wants to help in the paranormal, so interested in seeing anything about, any bridges, anything you got their history. She's just such a lovely, she's a lumberjack. She works in her daddy's sawmill.
Wow.
Yeah, in her daddy's sawmill in, out in the Poconos in the mountains. So she's very, very a wonderful young lady, just starting her own paranormal podcast. She's interested like you guys are. Yeah.
Cool.
So
that's
really...
as I said, there used to be a ghost walk there. We're in the throes of reinstituting it, and maybe by next year we might even have like a small bus, accommodate 15 people or so.
Well, I'm telling you what, if you find a storefront out there, I've got enough stuff to open up a store, and I'll start a ghost walk myself. I'll be in full garb walking down the street with a lantern. I guarantee we'll put on a show, baby.
Well, the guy who
I love Waynesboro.
This is like maybe like 12 years ago. He just got old, and it was too much for him to keep it up, and he gave us all the information and whatnot. Really nice guy. And it's really fun. We just found out that pretty much the whole town is over a cavern system. It's integrated. There's a deep subterranean lake there.
Wow.
Extensive caves with some really nice formations. Now, I don't know if anything is accessible right now.
Right.
Over the years, like when they went to build the hospital,
right,
they broke into the cavern. As they've done some excavation, they break into the cave. So we have pictures from some earlier newspaper articles when they found it. Evidently, in the 1830s, some of the churches would hold summer sessions underneath in the cavern.
Right, because it's so cool,
it was cool.
Yeah.
And there was a section of it that had the name Needy Cave, and it was instrumental in hiding individuals for the Underground Railroad.
Okay, awesome.
So it's they think it extends clean up in the South Mountain. They think it's rather extensive system.
You got to tell Haley about that. She'll flip out.
Yeah,
right.
No, it's really sort of neat. I never knew that.
Wow. The whole town resonates. It just has a nice feel to the whole town, Waynesboro. And the Hoover House is just magnificent in every way. You got to love it before you ever get there.
We
start walking up
local construction guys.
Yeah.
They fixed, and they'll be doing more work next year, but they actually really skilled carpenters, and they, out of walnut, they fashioned, how we had a couple of the large column bases were deteriorated. They rebuilt. Oh my God,
it's wonderful.
They got it matched.
The spirits are got to love, what you've done with the place and what you continue to do with it. Like I said, the town itself will build up to it. There's, like I said, the paranormal and the good intent and good-hearted in the paranormal have really saved a lot of history.
Yes.
Throughout. Yes. And that whole town could be like, look at how Gettysburg is. They, but it's done in a lovely way, I think, where the Candlelight Gettysburg tours by the, Mark Nesbitt and Carol Nesbitt.
Yeah.
And, the different ones that they have. And everything is done, I think, with reverence in a way. And I think if Waynesboro did that, that would be the same, and you'd get a lot of the spillover. Well, hell, let's go over there to Waynesboro and see what they've got going on. We're right here, you know.
And we know the original owner and his family, Ira and Emma and Eleanor, are going to be so much more responsive as they see us restoring their home to its original glory.
And the whole darn town, really. It's going to start up. Everybody's excited. I've seen stuff from there where everybody's getting together and doing, concerts in the square and, all that good stuff.
Yesterday was like some kind of Waynesboro Day or something. We had friends who were staying at the Hoover House that we had built stuff around, and then when I showed up yesterday afternoon, they're going, "Yeah, we went up to the park and catch," and he said, "Yeah, it was." And I thought they were being sarcastic. He said, "Yeah, we caught the big crowd," And I said, And I thought they were being sarcastic. I said, "What were there 2 dozen people up there?" He says, "No." And he showed me a picture from the cell phone. I mean, it was maybe like 500 or 600 people up there.
There's a lot of people. Yeah.
It really was I said, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, yeah.
And we got another investigation coming shortly here soon with James and Jess House of Goods, the antique store.
Nice.
And we're hoping that the more we do them and the more the word gets around town of how we handle it, the notoriety it brings for the store, that some of the other places in town that we know have activity will invite us in.
Yeah, there you go. And then just get them on the thing, too, because every business owner is glad business is coming through. So every ice cream shop, every sandwich shop, every little place, that's where you need to go around and get in touch with all the shop owners and go, if I brought a tour through here, do you have a little goodie bag that they could get at a discount if, or a cookie and a this or that, whatever they do, discount on book, or do you have any books about the town? Can you put the history books up front? So if they're interested in the history here, every store owner, just like somebody who has a restaurant buys from the local farmer,
right,
and that farmer comes to eat there, I mean, it's back and forth, and that's what grew America, and that's what'll rebuild it. We know what we got to do, and it's towns like that. And it's towns like that.
I don't know if you had a chance. I know it was a rather lengthy message I sent you earlier. By the way, thank you so much for coming on this evening with this.
Always willing to talk about a ghost story.
But I don't know if you got to read that message, but I mean, last night's session was just like, oh my God. This couple,
it's incredible.
They were in viewing, they came in town, they were going to go up to Adams County for the wineries, and they like to do that. A really delightful couple. And they had just got a house. We were filled up the weekend here. They had got a room at the Hoover house. So we were having a special dinner there, invited him to, him and his wife to have dinner with us. And we were all laughing. And then I guess Jenny and Bob were telling them about table tipping. And they said, oh, that sounds interesting. And they were saying, can we sit in? And I said, sure, Jenny had. I said, oh, absolutely. And then, oh my gosh, it was so emotional because this guy did what a phenomenal individual, and he had just devoted so much of his life to that daughter. And here, he said he told us later that he had actually, when he heard Jenny talking about the table tipping, in the back of his mind,
he was
wondered that she, that his daughter would come through, and then they lost their child the same year we lost ours. I'm like, it's just like all this stuff coming together.
Connection, familiar energy. I mean, I keep coming across that where people, if they back up and look at what's going on, like we were talking about the Allison, who was maybe killed in the alley there, and her connection to who may or may not have done it. It may not be the guy who did it. She might be showing me she doesn't trust this other guy because maybe that guy said this guy was okay or something. I don't know. But there's some connection with her and a male spirit there that she's trying to help him, and that helps her energy. So what if, your connection, your similar energies to yourself as a dad and this guy as a dad, at the same time, that's the energy that connected in. I mean, that's the thing. If you look at it all like energy, and then you have all these like energies just flying around out there, they just find each other somehow. Like the horses you talked about, well, what would help them cross? Well, anything that they had some kind of connection to, if it has to be a human spirit from the other side to come across and show it love and coax it. Come on, boy, come on across. Everything's good. I mean, any soldier that ever rode a horse into battle has a connection to that horse. I mean, even if you fell off and picked up somebody else's, there's an instant connection between you and them going into battle together. That's a lot of energy connection. Whether it was the guy was a jerk or not, or treated it well or not, I mean, they took care of their horses because they would go out from under them if they didn't.
Yeah.
so there's some kind of a connection there, even if it's just a feed and food and water kind of thing. It's some kind of connection. So those spirits might come across and help them walk across, just like this table tipping you had with the connection of the energy. It's fascinating.
Jenny had also brought Tyson along yesterday, and originally we had earlier in the week we had actually had a session with Tyson, and that's the Revolutionary War individual, and that you guys had got to meet, and we had a session earlier in the week where he was out, and it got real political, and he's naming names like in our halls of Congress, who's not to be trusted and who we can't trust and all that. He was really engaged, and so we were actually originally planning on running through the list of all the people in the Senate and sort of getting a yay or nay or whatever from Tyson. And my wife was actually looking forward to that. She enjoyed that, but priorities come up. So obviously that session was so emotional and all that. So we were pretty much done. we never got into the more mundane. No, we lost her.
Nope, there we go.
Oh,
I turned it down because he's down here yelling. This is Mr. Dickens, everybody.
Okay.
Mr. Dickens. He's down here yelling. He's gotten to be quite a ham. He comes on my show a lot. And he probably knew I was doing a live. Say hi. But see, that's
Mr.
just
Dickens.
it. That's just it.
Yeah, just like a motion detector.
Yeah.
Mr. D.
Mr. They are. He's named after Charles Dickens. And, if you think about it, he wrote one of the best ghost stories ever.
Absolutely.
The Christmas Carol. And I love Dickens because he was more like a journalist of his time. He was a whistleblower. He, on the prison system, on how the poor were treated, the workhouses, the orphanages.
Yeah.
All of the different stuff. I mean, everything was in there from, how the prostitutes were treated and the gamblers.
Are you familiar with his last book?
Which is what?
The Mystery of Edward Drood, D.R.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that a story? Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
So, like you were saying, he seemed to be really in tune to that.
Yeah.
To the high, and just for the audience sake, Dickens was about 2/3 through the book or so when he died. He passed away, and so it was unfinished work. And I believe it was several years after his death when another Englishman there suddenly claimed he had visitations by the famous author, and he wanted his book done. And so he finished the book. He wrote the conclusion, and he claimed throughout his life that it was Charles Dickens who had
he had channeled it.
Yeah, pretty much channeled it, the finish and all that stuff. And people, from a literary point of view, when they read through it, they pretty much said it seems very.
It sounds just like him.
Yeah, with Dickens and his style. So I always thought that was a really great story.
It is, and a fitting finish for quite the author, because he really was. I mean, from A Tale of Two Cities to, all of it. Oliver, everything was to expose the corruption and stuff. So he's got my vote, and it's a wonderful story with the three spirits in one night changing a man. Again, how go back to your times, what changed you, what formed you, how you reacted to this or this person that came into your life, for a short time. It's like they say, we're all I love this theory that we are souls on the other side. We choose to come back a particular time, like I want to get my vibration. Oh, I can get that better. I need to go back through and handle that better and raise my vibration higher. And, that kind of a soul group all waits for each other. It's like, okay, this time I'm going to be, we'll be brother and sister, and we'll get each other through together, young. And then we'll go through this and we'll do this time and learn that. And, I think that's how it kind of goes, because we meet these people that we just click with, in different times in our lives. And I think that the spirits, whether earthbound, I don't think they have as much Like sometimes it seems like they have to ride on an object, or they have to stay in a structure, or they have to stay on a piece of land, or follow a person, or whatever. There's all these like rules, not rules kind of thing going on. But I think the most exciting thing is trying to look into that and seeing what we can learn from them and what we can also do to help them, because it seems that they teach us all. If we're paying attention, they're teaching us little things along the way, like certain people coming back to help, like this young lady in the very young, in her early 20s, trusted somebody she shouldn't have trusted. And if it's true that she's come back and used this time to come back and help someone who was involved in that, and that could help her raise her vibration and also his, that falls suit with everything that I've been learning along the way, and it's very interesting. Isn't it funny how we go out of our way to go back and back and back again, especially as investigators and people that are genuinely compassion filled for someone who's passed and stuck. Like how many times have you been down in a dark cellar trying to help the same spirit over and over again? You go back and you go back and you, like therapy. But isn't it funny that you've got total strangers helping total strangers like that, living and the dead, but we still have so much hard time communicating with, each other in the living in our everyday. It's insane to me.
That's something
I don't get it.
You don't even realize, like, sitting down at a table session with perfect strangers.
Right.
And we have no idea their life's course and things.
Right.
And, oh my gosh, some of the twisted, convoluted, the relationships are difficult at best. And then even from the other side, you can almost pick up on the frustration, I would say, that, it's just, we hit upon a couple the other day doing a session. I'm like, oh my gosh. It just seemed to go from bad to worse, and we were all sort of at a loss where we could even start as far as trying some of the healing in that. She's out again there.
She is muted. I don't know why. She's muted.
There I am.
Oh, there you go.
There I am. Sorry, I don't know what happened there, but that's why I said, like, maybe if we took a little more time with the living amongst ourselves too, take a little extra time and care, maybe we wouldn't have to spend so much time in dark cellars trying to help them after they're dead. Listen, guys, I got to get out of here. I got to go do a show on my channel. It's been great.
Absolutely.
Everybody, look at the book. I don't know if you can see it. There it is right there. We Are All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife, a guided tour through a haunted life. That's me. It's great spooky time stuff. Hot cup of tea, some butter cookies, and that book. I'll get you one good evening out of the month coming up. It's spooky month. We're doing so much stuff on my channel. We are listening to the second book I wrote about the haunted cabin on the haunted mountain next to Dead Children's Playground. We've got Rougarous and Moonshiners and Ghost Kids and all kinds of wonderful dark to light stuff in that story. And we're listening to that every Monday. So we're up to chapter 4 now. So join us. It's not too late to catch up. And tonight I'm talking to the wonderful Peter Coe about tarot and thoughts. And
all right.
I love you guys.
Thank you so much, Hannah. I guess we'll be seeing you soon.
Yes, hopefully soon. We're absolutely gearing towards it. I love you guys.
Thanks again. Love
Stay
you
spooky. Bye, guys.
All right. So we had 2 guests on tonight. We had Lolo on for the first hour, talking about the investigation they did at the Firehouse Museum in Columbus, Ohio. And then we had our dear friend Cisco talking about pretty much everything, as one does when you talk to Cisco. So we're glad that everything worked out the way it did, considering, an hour before the show, we didn't know if we'd have any guests and weren't sure what we were going to talk about for 2 hours.
To remind everybody, 2 weeks then, we will have...
Yep, 2 weeks from tonight, our next show, which is the 17th? 17th. Lori Johnson's coming back.
she'll be doing
online live readings on the show. So we want to get everybody's name in for that and have her do as many as she can. Obviously there's a limit to it because of the physical and emotional and mental toll it takes on her. But she's coming back to help is what she does. And we thank her so much for it. Next Saturday over at the Hoover House is a meet and greet and event we're doing with the Kling brothers from, I think it was either Discovery or Travel Channel, I don't remember, Ghost Lab. They'll be there. And so if you're going to be in the area, or even if you're not planning on being in the area, but you live close enough, come on down to the Hoover House on Main Street, Waynesboro, and check out and meet the Kling brothers and see what we got going on. And as soon as we can get some of these other places that we keep talking about on the books, which of course requires me to be able to have time off from work, we will let you know when those are. We want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We hope you have an enjoyable rest of your weekend, however long that may be, and have a very safe week. And we will see you in 2 weeks on Doorway to the Dead with Lori Johnson. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining Dave and Jim on Doorway to the Dead. Catch us next week right here at 8 p.m. every Thursday as we open the door to paranormal discussion and more.
Now the Chargers they haven't played yet.